Okay. I want to look back at, which was very important in Black American history, the Rev Jesse Jackson, 1988 Democratic National Convention address. As he come out, he says, thank you. Tonight, we pause and give praise and honor to God for being good enough to allow us to be at this place at this time. When I look at this convention, I see the faces of America, red, yellow, brown, black, and white. We are all precious in God's sight. We, the real Rainbow Coalition. All of us who are here think that we are seated, but we're really standing on someone's shoulders. Ladies and gentlemen, he introduced Miss Rosa Parks, the mother of the Civil Rights Movement. Rosa Parks at that time was brought to the podium. I want to express my deep love and appreciation for the support my family has given me over these past months. They have endured pain, anxiety, threat, and fear, but they have been strengthened and made secure by our faith in God, in America, and in you. Your love has protected us and made us strong. To my wife Jackie, the foundation of our family, to our 5 children whom you meet tonight, to my mother, Miss Helen Jackson, who is present tonight, and to our grandmother, Miss Matilda Burns, to my brother Chuck and his family, to my mother-in-law, Miss Gertrude Brown, who just last month at age 61 graduated from Hampton Institution, a marvelous achievement. I offer my appreciation to Mayor Andrew Young, who has provided such gracious hospitality to all of us this week, and a special salute to President Jimmy Carter. President Carter restored honor to the White House after Watergate. He gave many of us special opportunities to grow, for his kind words, for his unwavering commitment to peace in the world. For the voters that came from his family, every member of his family, led by Billy and Amy, I offer my special thanks to the Carter family. My right and my privilege to stand here before you has been won in my lifetime, by the blood and the sweat of the innocent. 24 years ago, the late Fannie Lou Hamer and Aaron Henry, who sits here tonight from Mississippi, were locked out onto the streets in Atlantic City, New Jersey, the head of the Mississippi Federal Democratic Party. But tonight, a black and white delegation from Mississippi is headed by Ed Cole, a black man from Mississippi 24 years later. Many were lost in the struggle for the right to vote. Jimmy Lee Jackson, a young student, gave his life. Viola Lazon, a white mother from Detroit, called nigger lover, and brains blow out at point blank range. Michael Srina, Andrew Goodman, and James Chaney, 2 Jews and a black, found in a common grave, bodies riddled with bullets in Mississippi. The 4 darling little girls in a church in Alabama, in Birmingham, Alabama, they died that we might have a right to vote to live. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. lies only a few miles from us tonight. Tonight must feel good as he looks down upon us. We sit here together, a Rainbow Coalition, the sons and daughters of slave masters and the sons and daughters of slaves sit together around a common table to decide the direction of our party and our country. His heart would be full tonight. As a testament to the struggle of those who have gone before, as a legacy for those who will come after, as a tribute to the endurance, the patience, the courage of our forefathers and mothers, as an assurance that their prayers are being answered, that their work has not been in vain, and that hope is eternal. Tomorrow night, my name will go into nomination for the presidency of the United States of America. We meet together tonight at the crossroads, a point of decision. Shall we expand, be inclusive, find unity and power, or suffer division and crumble? We have come to Atlanta, the cradle of the old South, the cradle of the new South. Tonight, there is a sense of celebration because we are fundamentally moved from racial battlegrounds by law to economic common ground. Tomorrow we're challenged to move to a higher ground, common ground. Think of Jerusalem, the intersection where many trails meet, a small village that become the birthplace for three great religions, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. Why was this village so blessed? Because it provided crossroads where different people meet. To different cultures, different civilizations could meet and find common ground. When people come together, flowers always flourish. The air is rich with the aroma of a new spring. Take New York, the dramatic metropolitan. What makes New York so special? It's the invitation at the Statue of Liberty. Give me your tired, your poor, your hurtled masses who yield to breathe free. Not restrict to English only. Many people, many cultures, many languages with one thing in common. They yield to breathe free. Common ground. Tonight in Atlanta, for the first time in this century, we convene in the South, a state where governors once stood in schoolhouse doors, where Julia Barnes was denied a seat in the state legislature because of his conscious objective to the Vietnam War. A city that, through its 5 black universities, has graduated more black students than any city in the world. Atlanta, now a modern intersection of the New South. Common ground. That's the challenge of our party tonight, left wing, right wing. Our progress will come through a bolus liberalism, not static conservatism, but at the critical mass of mutual survival, not at boundless liberalism nor static conservatism, but at the critical mass of mutual survival. It takes 2 wings to fly, whether you're a hawk or bird. You're just a bird living in the same environment, in the same world. The Bible teaches that when lions and lambs lie down together, none will be afraid, and there will be a peace in the valley. It sounds impossible. Lions eat lambs. Lambs sensibly flee from lions. Yet, even lions and lambs find common ground. Why? Because neither lion nor lamb want the forest to catch on fire. Neither lion nor lamb want acid rain to fall. Neither lion nor lamb can survive nuclear war. If lions and lambs can find common ground, surely we can as well as civilized people. The only time that we win is when we come together. In 1960, John Kennedy, the late John Kennedy, beat Richard Nixon by only 112,000 votes. Less than 1 vote per precinct. He won by the margin of our hope. He brought us together. He reached out. He had the courage to defy his advisors and inquire about Dr. King gelling in Albany, Georgia. We won by the margin of our hope, inspired by courageous leadership. In 1964, Lyndon Johnson brought both wings together, the theses, the anthesis, and the creative synthesis. And together we won in 1976 when Jimmy Carter unified us again, and we won. When do we not come together? When we do, when do we not come together? We will never win. In 1968, the vision and despair in July led to our defeat in November. In 1980, raccoons in the spring and the summer led to Reagan in the fall. When we divide, we cannot win. When we must find common ground as the basis for survival and development and change and growth. Today, when we debate, differ, deliberate, agree to disagree, agree to agree, agree to disagree, when we had the good judgment to argue a case and then not self-destruct, George Bush was just a little further away from the White House and a little closer to private life. Tonight, I salute Governor Michael Dukakis. He has run a well-managed and a dignified campaign. No matter how tired or how tired, he always resists the temptation to stoop to demagoguery. I watch a good mind fast at work with steel nerves, guiding his campaign out of the crowded field without appeal to the worst in us. I've watched his perspective grow as his environment has expanded. I've seen his toughness and tendency close up. I know his commitment to public service. Mike Dukakis' parents were a doctor and a teacher. My parents are a maid and beautician and a janitor. There's a great gap between Brookline, Massachusetts and Henry Street in the Forest Crest Village housing project in Greenville, South Carolina. He studied law, I studied theology. There are difference of religion, region, and race, difference in experience and perspective, but the genius of America is that out of the many, we become one. Providence has enabled our paths to intersect. His foreparents came to America on immigrant ships. My foreparents came to America on slave ships. But whatever the original ship, we in the same boat tonight. Our ship could pass in the night if we have a false sense of independency, or they could collide and crash. We would win, we would lose our passengers. We could seek a high reality and a greater good. Apart, we can drift on the broken pieces of Reaganomics, satisfy our BASA instincts, and explore the fears of our people. At our highest, we can call upon noble instincts and navigate this vessel to safety. The greater good is common ground. As Jesse Jackson said, not my will, but thy be done. It was his way of saying there's a higher good beyond personal comfort or position. The good of our nation is at stake, is committed to working men and women, to the poor and the vulnerable, to the many in the world. With so many guided missiles and so much misguided leadership, the stakes are exceedingly high. Our choice, full participation in a democratic government, or more abandonment and neglect. And so this night, we choose not a false sense of independence, not our capacity to survive and endure. Tonight we choose interdependence and our capacity to act and unite for the greater good. Common ground is finding a commitment to new priorities, to expansion and inclusion. A commitment to expand participation in the Democratic Party at every level. A commitment to a shared national campaign strategy and environment at every level. A commitment to new priorities that ensure that hope will be kept alive. A common ground commitment to a legislative agenda for empowerment for the John Conyers bill, university or site, same-day registration everywhere. A commitment to D.C. statehood, empowerment. D.C. deserves statehood. A commitment to economic set-asides. Commitment to the Dole bill for comprehensive sanctions against South Africa. A shared commitment to a common direction, common ground. Easier said than done. Where do you find common ground? At the point of challenge. This campaign will show that politics need not be marketed by politicians, packaged by posters and pundits, politics can be a more arena where people come together to find common ground. We find common ground at the plant gate that close on workers without notice. We find common ground at the farm auction where a good farmer loses his or her land to bad loans or the missing market. Common ground at the schoolyard where teachers cannot get adequate pay and students cannot get a scholarship and can't make a loan. Common ground at the hospital admitting room where somebody tonight is dying because they cannot afford to go upstairs to a bed that's empty waiting for someone with insurance to get sick. We are a better nation than that. We must do better. Common ground. What is leadership if not present help in a time of crisis? And so I meet you at the point of challenge in January in Maine, where paper workers were striking for fair wages. In Greenville, in Idaho, where family farms struggle for a fair price. In Cleveland, Ohio, where working women seek comparable work. In McFarland, California, where the children of Hispanic farm workers may be dying from poisoned land, dying in clusters with cancer. In an AIDS hospice in Houston, Texas, where the sick support one another, too often rejected by their own parents and friends. Common ground. America is not a blanket woven from one thread, one color, one cloth. When I was a child growing up in Greenville, South Carolina, and grandma could not afford a blanket, she didn't complain, and we did not freeze. Instead, she took pieces of old cloth, patches, wool, silk, gabardine, a crotasac, only patches, barely good enough to wipe off your shoes with. But they didn't stay that way very long. With their steady hands and a strong cord, she sewed them together into a quilt and a thing of beauty and power and culture. Now, Democrats, we must build such a quilt. Farmers, you seek fair prices and you are right, but you cannot stand alone. Your patch is not big enough. Workers, you fight for fair wages, and you are right, but your patch, labor, is not big enough. Women, you seek comparable work and pay equality. You are right, but your patch is not big enough. Women, mothers who seek Head Start and daycare and parental care on the front side of life, relevant jail care and welfare on the back side of life. You are right, but your patch is not big enough. Students, you seek scholarships. You are right, but your patch is not big enough. Blacks and Hispanics, when we fight for civil rights, we are right, but our patch is not big enough. Gays and lesbians, when we fight against discrimination and a cure for AIDS, you are right, but your patch is not big enough. Conservative and progressive, when you fight for what you believe, right wing, left wing, hawk, dove, you are right from your point of view, but your point of view is not enough. But don't despair. Be as wise as my grandmother. Pull the patches and the pieces together, bound by a common thread. When we form a great quilt of unity and common ground, we have the power to bring about health care and housing and jobs and education and hope to our nation. We, the people, can win. We stand at the end of a long, dark night of reaction. We stand tonight united in the commitment to a new direction. For almost 8 years, we've been led by those who view social good coming from private interests, who view public life as a means to increase private wealth. They have been prepared to sacrifice the common good of the many to satisfy the private interest and the wealth of a few. We believe in a government that's a tool of our democracy in service to the public. not an instrument of the aristocracy in search of private wealth. We believe in government with the consent of the governed, for, and by the people. We must now emerge into a new day with a new direction. Reaganomics, based on the belief that the rich had too much money, sick, too little money, and the poor had too much. That's classic Reaganomics. They believe that the poor had too much money and the rich had too little money. So they engaged a reverse Robin Hood, took from the poor, gave to the rich, paid for by the middle class. We cannot stand for more years of Reaganomics in any version and in any disguise. How do I document that case? 7 years later, the richest 1% of our society pays 20% less in taxes. The poorest 10% pays 20% more. Reaganomics. Reagan gave the rich and the powerful multi-billion dollars party. Now the party is over. He expects the people to pay for the damage. I take this principled position. Convention, let us not raise taxes on the poor and the middle class, but those who had the party, the rich and the powerful, must pay for the party. I just want to take common sense to higher places. We're spending $150 billion a year defending Europe and Japan 43 years after the war is over. We have more troops in Europe tonight than we have 7 years ago. Yet the threat of war is even more remote. Germany and Japan are now credited nations. That means they got a surplus. We are a debted nation, means that we are in debt. Let them share more of the burden of their own defense. Use some of that money to build decent housing. Use some of that money to educate our children. Use some of that money for long-term health care. Use some of that money to wipe out these slums and put America back to work. I just want to take common sense to a high places. If we can bail out Europe and Japan, we can bail out Continental Bank and Chrysler, and Mr. Iacoga makes $8,000 an hour. We can bail out the family farm. I just want to make common sense. It does not make sense to close down 650,000 family farms in this country while importing food from abroad subsidized by the United States government. Let's make common sense. It does not make sense to be escorting all our tankers up and down the Persian Gulf, paying $2.50 for every $1 worth of oil we bring out, while our oil wells are capped in Texas, Oklahoma, and Louisiana. I just want to make common sense. Leadership must meet the moral challenge of its day. What's the moral challenge of our day? We have public accommodations. We have the right to vote. We have open housing. What's the fundamental challenge of our day? It is to end economic violence. Plants closing without notice. Economic violence. Even the greedy do not profit long from greed. Economic violence. Most poor people are not lazy, and they are not black. They are not brown. They are mostly white and female and young. But whether white, black, or brown, a baby's belly turned inside out is the same color. Color it pain. Color it hurt. Color it agony. Most poor people are not on welfare. Some of them are illiterate and can't read and want a one ad section. And when they can't find a job that matches the address. They work hard every day. I know. I live amongst them. I'm one of them. I know they work. I'm a witness. They catch the early bus. They work every day. They raise other people's children. They work every day. They clean the streets. They work every day. They drive dangerous cabs. They work every day. They change the beds you slept in those hotels last night and can't get a union contract. They work every day. No, they are not lazy. Someone must defend them because it's right, and they cannot speak for themselves. They work in hospitals. I know they do. They wipe the bodies of those who are sick with fever and pain. They empty their bedpans. They clean out their commodes. No job is beneath them, and yet when they get sick, they cannot lie in the bed they made up every day. America, that is not right. We are a better nation than that. We are a better nation than that. We need a real war on drugs. You can't just say no. It's deeper than that. You can't just get a palm reader or an astronomer. It's more profound than that. We are spending $150 billion on drugs a year. We are gone from ignoring it to focusing on the children. Children cannot buy $150 billion worth of drugs a year. A few high-profile athletes are not laundering $150 billion a year. Bankers are. I met the children in Watts who, unfortunately, in their despair, their grape of hope have become risen. Their grapes of hope has become raisins of despair, and they're turning on each other, and they're self-destructive. But I stayed with them all night long. I wanted to hear their case. They said, Jesse Jackson, as you challenge us to say no to drugs, you're right, and to not sell them, you're right, and not to use these guns, you're right. And by the way, the promise of CETA, Comprehensive Employment and Training Act, they displaced CETA. They did not replace CETA. We have neither jobs nor houses, nor service nor training, no way out. Some of us take drugs as an anesthesia for our pain. Some take drugs as a way of pleasure, good short-term pleasure and long-term pain. Some sell drugs to make money. It's wrong, we know, but we need to know that we know. We can go and buy the drugs by the boxes at the port. If we can buy the drugs at the port, don't you believe the federal government can stop it if they wanted to? They say, we don't have Saturday night specials anymore. They say, we buy AK-47s and Uzis, the latest make of weapons. We buy them across the aisle along these boulevards. We can't fight a war on drugs unless and until we're going to challenge the banker and the gun seller and those who grow them. Don't just focus on the children. Let's stop drugs at the level of supply and demand. We must end the scourge on the American culture. Leadership. What difference will it make? Leadership cannot just go along to get along. We must do more than change presidents. We must change directions. Leadership must face the moral challenge of our day. The nuclear war buildup is irrational. Strong leadership cannot desire to look tough and let that stand in the way of the pursuit of peace. Leadership must reverse the arms race. At least we should pledge no first use. Why? Because first use begets first retaliation, and that's mutual alienation. That's not a rational way out. No use at all. Let's think it out and not fight it out because it's an unwinning fight. Why hold a card that you can never drop? Let's give peace a chance. Leadership. We have the marvelous opportunity to have a breakthrough with the Soviets. Last year, 200,000 Americans visit the Soviet Union. There's a chance for joint venture into space, not Star Wars and war arms escalation, that is space defense initiative. Let's build in the space together and to demilitarize the heavens, demilitarize the heavens. There's a way out. America, let us expand. When Mr. Reagan and Mr. Gorbachev met, there was a big meeting. They represent together 1/8 of the human race. 7/8 of the human race was locked out of that room. Most people in the world tonight, half are Asian, 1/2 of them are Chinese. There are 22 nations in the Middle East. There's Europe, 40 million Latin Americans next door to us. The Caribbean, Africa, 500 million people. Most people in the world today are yellow or brown or black, non-Christian, poor, female, young, and don't speak English in the real world. This generation must offer leadership to the real world. We're losing ground in Latin America, Middle East, South Africa, because we're not focusing on the real world. That's the real world. We must use basic principles, support international law. We stand the most to gain from it. Support human rights. We believe in that. Support self-determination. We're built on that. Support economic development. You know it's right. Be consistent and gain our more authority in the world. I challenge you tonight, my friend, let's be bigger and better as a nation and as a party. We have basic challenges. Freedom in South Africa. We already agreed as Democrats to declare South Africa to be the terrorist state. But don't just stop there. Get South Africa out of Angola. Free Namibia. Support the frontline states. We must have a new, humane, human spirit, consistent policy in Africa. I'm often asked, Jesse, why do you take on these tough issues? They're not political. We can't win that way. If an issue is morally right, it will eventually be political. It may be political and never be right. Fannie Lou Hamer didn't have the most votes in Atlantic City, New Jersey, but her principles have outlasted every delegate who voted to lock her out. Rosa Parks did not have the most votes, but she was morally right. Dr. King didn't have the most votes about the Vietnam War, but he was morally right. If we are principled first, our politics will fall in place. Jesse, why do you take on these big, bold initiatives? A poem by unknown author went something like this. We mastered the air, we conquered the sea, we annihilate distance and prolong life. But we're not wise enough to live on this earth without war and without hate. As for Jesse Jackson, I'm tired of selling my little boat far inside the harbor bar. I want to go out where the big ships float, out on the deep where the great ones are, and should my frail craft prove too slight for waves and swamps those billions, or I'd rather go down in the stirring fight than jostle to death at the shattered shores. We got to go out, my friends, where the big boats are. And then our children, young Americans, hold your head high now. We can win. We must not lose you to drugs and violence, premature pregnancy, suicide, cynicism, permission and despair. We can win. Wherever you are tonight, I challenge you to hope and to dream. Don't submerge your dreams. Exercise above all else. Even on drugs, dream of the day you are drug free. Even in the gutter, dream of the day that you will be up on your feet again. You must never stop dreaming. Face reality, yes, but don't stop with don't stop with the way things are. Dream of things as they ought to be. Dream, face pain, but love, hope, faith, and dreams will help you raise above the pain. Use hope and imagination of weapons of survival and progress. But you keep hope and imagination as weapons of survival and progress. But you keep on dreaming. Young Americans, dream of peace. Peace is rational and reasonable. War is irrational in this age and unwinnable. Dream of teachers who teach for life and not for a living. Dream of doctors who are concerned of more about public health than private wealth. Dream of lawyers who more concerned about justice than a judgeship. Dream of preachers who are concerned more about prophecy than profiteering. Dream on the high road with sound values, and then America. As we go forth to September, October, November, and then beyond, America must never surrender to a high moral challenge. Do not surrender to drugs. The best drug policy is no first use. Don't surrender with needles and cynicism. Let's have no first use on the one hand, or cleanse on the other. Never surrender, young Americans. Go for it. America must never surrender to malnutrition. We can feed the hungry and clothe the naked. We must never surrender. We must go forward. We must never surrender to literacy. Invest in our children. Never surrender and go forward. We must never surrender to inequality. Women cannot compromise ERA or comparable wealth. Women are making 60 cents on the dollar of what a man makes. Women cannot buy meat cheaper. Women cannot buy bread cheaper. Women cannot buy milk cheaper. Women deserve to get paid for the work that you do. It's right and it's fair. Don't surrender, my friends. Those who have AIDS tonight, you deserve our compassion. Even with AIDS, you must not surrender. In your wheelchairs, I see you sitting here tonight in those wheelchairs. I stayed with you. I reached out to you across our nation. And don't give up. I know it's tough sometimes. People look down on you. It took you a little more effort to get here tonight. And no one should look down on you. But sometimes mean people do. The only justification we have for looking down on someone is that we are going to stop and pick them up. But even in your wheelchairs, don't give up. We cannot forget 50 years ago when our backs were against the wall. Roosevelt was in a wheelchair. I would rather have Roosevelt in a wheelchair than Reagan and Bush on a horse. Don't you surrender and don't you give up. Don't you surrender and don't you give up. Why? I cannot challenge you this way. Why I cannot challenge you this way, Jesse Jackson? You don't understand my situation. You be on television. You don't understand. I see you with the big people. You don't understand my situation. I understand. You see me on TV, but you don't know the me that makes me me. Me. They wonder, why does Jesse run? Because they see me running for the White House. They don't know the house I'm running from. I have a story. I wasn't always on TV. Writers were not always outside my door. When I was born late one afternoon, October 8th, in Greenville, South Carolina, no writers asked my mother her name. Nobody chose to write down our address. My mama was not supposed to make it, and I was not supposed to make it. You see, I was born of a teenage mother who was born of a teenage mother. I understand. I know abandonment and people being mean to you and saying you're nothing and nobody and can never be anything. I understand. Jesse Jackson is my third name. I'm adopted. When I had no name, my grandmother gave me her name. My name was Jesse Burns till I was 12. So I wouldn't have a blank space. She gave me a name to hold me over. I understand when nobody knows your name. I understand when you have no name. I understand. I wasn't born in the hospital. Mama didn't have insurance. I wasn't born in the bed at the house. I really do understand. I really do understand. Born in 3-room house, bedroom in the backyard, slop jar by the bed, no hot and cold running water. I understand. Wallpaper used for declaration, no, for a windbreaker. I understand. I'm a working person's person. That's why I understand you, whether you're black or white. I understand work. I was not born with a silver spoon in my mouth. I had a shovel program for my hand. My mother, a working woman. So many of the days she went to work early with runs in her stockings. So she knew better, but she wore runs in her stocking so that my brother and I could have matching socks and not be laughed at school. I understand. At 3 o'clock on Thanksgiving Day, we couldn't eat turkey because Mama was preparing somebody else's turkey at 3 o'clock. We had to play football to entertain ourselves. And then around 6, she would get off the after visitor bus, and we would bring up and we would bring up the leftovers and eat our turkey, leftovers, the carcass, the cranberries, around 8 o'clock at night. I really do understand every one of these funny labels they put on you. Those of you who are watching this broadcast tonight in the projects, on the corner, I understand. Call you outcast, low down, you can't make it, you're nothing, you're from nobody, subclass, underclass. When you see Jesse Jackson, when my name goes into nomination, your name goes into nomination. I was born in the slum, but the slum was not born in me, and it wasn't born in you, and you can make it. Wherever you are tonight, you can make it. Hold your head high, stick your chest out, you can make it. It gets dark sometimes, but the morning comes. Don't you surrender. Suffering breeds character. Character breeds faith. In the end, faith will not disappoint. You must not surrender. You may or may not get there, but just know that you're qualified, and you hold on and hold out. We must never surrender. America will get better, and America will get better. Keep hope alive, keep hope alive, keep hope alive. On tomorrow night and beyond, keep hope alive. I love you very much. I love you very much. That was Jesse Jackson, 1988, at the 1988 Democratic Convention in Atlanta, Georgia. The Democratic National Convention in Atlanta, Georgia. Boy, that was, it was delivered the 19th of July, 1988, and I remember it. I remember being at the airport at the time, and me and some guy that was talking about starting his own business, and we were remembering the speech that we could catch on TV. We didn't have YouTube like we have today. But the Lord laid that on me to deliver this message today, and I hope I did a good job. I tried to do the best I could. That's all I can do. And because we're so close to the next president, I'm looking for Madam Secretary January 20th, which is going to be a great day because, as I said, it's Martin Luther King's birthday, but one of my colleagues, Yusef Shabazz, reminded me that Dr. King's birthday is January 15th. But we celebrated that Monday, which is the 20th. So on that day, the first female president, Madam President, will be hopefully taking oath of office. The first black justice, Jackson, I can't pronounce her first name, will honor the ceremony. And it's on Dr. King's legal holiday. That's the day that we celebrate it legally. Okay, God bless you, and listen. I say to the young kids, because you're getting so close to school, please, I know you like those games, those computer games. There's nothing wrong with them. They're going to help you be able to compete in the world, in the future, because everything is going to computers, so your hands and your body will be fixed that way, and it will be a great challenge to jump on the computer and do things that you need to do. And the new jobs that's yet to be developed will be computerized. So that's a good thing that you do play those games. But please, take an hour a day and read a book. Thank you, thank you. God bless you, God bless you. From Rev Zechariah A Jackson, President of BASA News. Goodbye. Thank you.